computer. I'm going to record to this computer. Okay, it's recording now. I'm going to record it to this computer, and then I will start. Are we ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So this is the life and genealogy of Thomas Burroughs Jr. On his father's side. Thomas Burroughs Jr.'s father was Thomas Burroughs Sr. And Thomas Burroughs Sr. was born in 1925 in Neesmith, Williamsburg County of South Carolina. But sometime during his life, moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and passed away on the 1st of June, 2001 in Philadelphia. Thomas Sr.'s parents were Robert Burroughs, and Robert Burroughs was born on the 14th of January in the year of 1900 in Neesmith, Williamsburg County, South Carolina, and passed away on the 25th of March, 1968 in Kingstree, Williamsburg County, South Carolina. Robert Burroughs was married to a woman named Rosa Williams, and Rosa was born on the 31st of January, 1913, somewhere in South Carolina. We don't know exactly where, and passed away sometime in September. We're estimating September of 1986. Now I'm going to pull up Robert and Rosa, and I'm going to just go over their list of children. Robert and Rosa, it looks like possibly had 4 or 5 children. Clara Burroughs, born in 1924. Thomas Burroughs Jr., a senior, born in 1925. Helen, born in 1934. Robert, born in 1937. And potentially had another spouse by the name of Flossie, born in 1912 and passed away in 1997. Now, we don't know exactly if this list of children, Clara, Thomas Sr., Helen, and Robert, were the children of Rosa or Flossie, and we'd probably have to do some DNA to determine that. So Robert Burroughs Jr.'s father was a gentleman named Naaman Burroughs, and it's spelled, I've seen it spelled as Burroughs, Burrows, or Burroughs. Now, my husband's family is the exact same. When his family were in Burke County, Georgia, everything that I've seen was spelled Burrows. However, in the Great Migration in the 1920s, 1922, 23, somewhere in the early 1920s is when the Burroughs half-brothers, cousins migrated to Burlington, New Jersey. Some in the Philadelphia area. Burlington, New Jersey is right across the bridge from Bristol, Pennsylvania, and maybe 20 minutes from Philadelphia. And that changed, the spelling of their name changed to Burroughs at that time. Naaman was born in 1856 in Neesmith, Williamsburg County, South Carolina. And we don't know exactly when he died, but it's sometime before 1920 in South Carolina. I probably pulled that because we probably saw him somewhere between 1910 and 1919 in some records, but could not find him after that. I don't know that I found any particular death records for Naaman. And Naaman was married to a woman who I've found several names for, Louisa. I've seen her as Louisa Gamble, Louisa McCutcheon, and Louisa Jones, and probably from different marriages. I'm not quite sure which of these names was her actual maiden name, but she was born around 1880 in Neesmith, Williamsburg County, in South Carolina, and died somewhere in South Carolina, but we do not have a lot of information on her. I can go back one more generation, I believe it is. Yes, one more generation for Louisa. Her mother was a woman named Emma Gamble. And that's all I know about her. We have a name for her. I probably have some documents in here that I'd have to go in and research to tell you exactly where I got that from. I think it might have been from a marriage certificate or something like that. But Emma was her name.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's as far back as I could go for your father's side. Your father's mother's side, Rosa Wilson. I was able to go back a little bit further.
Okay.
Again, Rosa was born in 1913, somewhere in South Carolina, the 31st of January, actually, in 1913, and died somewhere in September 1986. Her father was a gentleman named Zach R. Wilson, born around 1880 in South Carolina, and died on the 19th of January, 1939 in King Mountain. Again, same county, Williamsburg, South Carolina. Zach was married to a woman named Rena McKnight. I don't have any information on her death, but she was born somewhere around 1887 in South Carolina. And I will pull them up to see their children. There's a list of children under Rena and Zach. Vanless Wilson, born in 1906. Evangelist Wilson, born in 1907. Isabel, 1910. Chloe, 1912. Augusta, 1913. Rosa, 1913. I have someone that had no name. They might have been stillborn or died shortly after birth, born in 1915. Ruth in 1922 and Roosevelt in 1925. So those are the children of Rena and of Zach. All right. Rena's, we'll go back to Zach. Okay, so Zach's father was someone by the name of Friday Wilson, also interchangeable with the name Murphy. Now, Friday was born somewhere around June of 1840 in South Carolina. Friday was most likely born into slavery, and having different names on different documents is not uncommon for people born into slavery, because if you remember, Blacks who were born into slavery were considered chattel or property, and did not have a last name or surname per se. Oftentimes they would take on while enslaved, take on the name of the slave owner only to be recognized as belonging to that particular person. But after slavery, Blacks had to choose a name. They had to choose a last name. The 1870 census, in which Friday Wilson would have been about 30 years old at that time, was the first census after the Civil War. And the majority of Blacks, particularly in the South, were counted in that census. Of course, there were some that were free before that. There are other places in the United States on the East Coast and things like that. That's a different story. But in South Carolina and in the South, the 1870 census was the first census that Blacks were counted and needed to choose a last name. So we don't know if Friday's last name, he belonged to someone named Milson, also in his lifetime belonged to someone named Murphy, and just went back and forth between the two names. That's not uncommon for people to go back and forth or to choose a different name as they changed.
I understand.
But Friday, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What's your question?
One question I'm still lingering on is I want to know the date. I think you said something towards 1700 when the name Burroughs appears on the scene. What I'm trying to say, and yeah, I want to know how far back that name connected with my genealogy goes.
Okay. Okay, very good. So let me just tell you that Friday died on 11 April of 1940 in Kingstree. But going back to the 1940, so this is all your mother's side. So that's not, I'm sorry, Rosa Wilson's side on your father's mother's side, and that's where we go back prior to the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Or to the Revolutionary War, I should say.
Definitely. Okay? Wow.
Yeah. But on your father's side, Thomas Burroughs, your father's father, Robert Burroughs,
Mhm.
Naaman is the first person, or the last person, I should say, depending on your perspective, that I can find with the Burroughs name, the first person. And he was born in 1856 in
Eight-
Neesmith.
1856. Okay.
1856, exactly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I did not find a lot on Neiman, but let me pull this up real quick and see what we have here. I have a slave schedule from 1860.
Really?
Yeah, so what happened is, 1870 is the first time that Blacks
Mhm.
were really in the census. So in
Mhm.
1860, um,
Mhm.
Naaman would have still been a slave and owned by someone. He
Mhm.
would have been, I don't remember how old he would have been in 1860, but if you hang on, I will tell you. 1856, so he would have been about 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, something along those lines.
Okay. All right.
So in
Mhm.
1860, we can only go by deductive reasoning and circumstantial evidence. In that county, in Horry, in Kingston,
Mhm.
was a gentleman named Jason Burroughs, who was
Jason.
white and
Wow.
owned slaves.
There's a
And
connect.
yes, I think that's the connect. I'm not 100% sure at this point. What I would need to do is find the records of Jason Burroughs to get some more solid evidence there. But he did have Jason. Looks like he did own a slave, somewhere around 2 years old, and a
Wow.
baby that he owned. So that possibly could have been Naaman. They could have just miscalculated his name. They probably don't have an exact date of
Mhm.
birth for him for 1856. He could have been born in 1858. Who knows? But this is circumstantial. And Jason Burroughs, I think, yeah, that's what it looks like. Jason Burroughs, yeah, there he is. Jason S. It looks like, um, absolutely owned a slave the age
Mhm.
of 2 years old at that time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hey, I don't
Um,
see how you do it. Wow, boy, this is
yeah,
amazing. This
yeah. I
is
love this. I love this.
for
Now, did you want to
real.
go back further on Rosa Wilson's side?
I'm just connecting to the matriarchal, well, the
The
father's side.
patriarchal, the
Yeah,
father side, the patriarchal. Okay,
patriarchal.
very good, very good. So we
Mm-hmm.
have, so when you are ready to connect to the matriarchal side,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we go back.
The folders.
Yeah, they go back to Joe Cooper and Dina or Dinah Cooper, who
What
were
year is
born.
this?
Dinah was born approximately around 1770.
Whoa, get out of here.
Yeah, and died in 1881, somewhere between
Woo.
1760 and 1770 in Indian Township in Williamsburg County. She died somewhere around 1881. She could have
That
been anywhere from 100 to 110 years old.
that was before the Constitution.
That was before, yes, that was before the Declaration of Independence, which
Yes,
wasn't penned until 1776.
776.
Exactly.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, so I have a list of assets of a William or a Will James Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
who was probably her slave owner, because I believed she and another person named Para were listed in his assets in his will somewhere
Mm-hmm.
around 1808.
Wow, 1808. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. So, and I believe I also have, let me see here for Dina, I think it's the 1880 census. Give me 1 second here to pull this up. So in the 1880 census, which would have been about 15 years after slavery ended,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dina is listed in the household in Williamsburg County. I guess it's in Indian is the name of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And she's listed with a Joe Cooper, who is her, I believe, I'm pretty sure it's her son at 60 years old, and Joe's wife, Adeline. Um, Joe, I think their son or no, their son at 10, and Dina, who is listed as Joe's mother, and age listed at 110 years old.
Jubilant. That's something.
So I believe there was another a document that I found here, and I don't remember what it was, but it it was the 1860 slave schedule for let me pull this up, for Joe Cooper. All right. 1860 slave schedule, which again, slaves are not listed by name, but he has in his list of property of slaves, he has a female Black slave in 1860 listed at age 100.
Wow.
So that is pretty much some really good circumstantial evidence, or solid, that Dina did indeed belong to this gentleman named Cooper.
So I'm seeing most of the action is in Greensboro County, Naismith. You know, I've been out through there. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm sure that some of these people are buried there. I would have to find death records, death certificates, to be able to find out exactly what it is. So the next time you go to Naismith or to that that area, you could probably traipse around some of the older graveyards and find these the headstones, or just a marker of these people buried there. Most likely in an all Black cemetery, or in a cemetery where the whites and Blacks have been separated in the cemetery.
Yeah, I know about that. Definitely. I'm from South Carolina. It's amazing. Hey, Anna, I really appreciate your expertise, and this is a lesson in life.
I know. It is a lesson in life, and I'll tell you why I love doing this, especially for the African American community, because since the dawn of time, the African Americans here have been told, you come from nothing, you come from nowhere, you don't have a history.
Totally.
And that's not true, as evidenced by what I have shared with you. And this is, maybe a month's worth of research that I've done. If I had time and the energy, I could go even further. I could go to Naismith and I could look into the archives and things like that, and find more information. But it is absolutely a life lesson that the Blacks in this country built this country, and come from somewhere, and come from something, as evidenced by your family being here before even the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Excuse me a minute. I remember my father, last time I was it's been a while. I remember somebody in our family was a wrought iron thing. He made gates, and I remember going in his backyard, his shed, and looking at all that iron and the design. I said, well, these are artesian people.
Yes. These are people that are artists and things like that. It's very interesting because we're not aware of our history, but if you look into it, most people were told if your family was a slave, they were picking cotton or farming, or lucky enough to be inside the house and doing maid work and things like that. But in places such as Charleston,
definitely.
You've got people, because it's a coastal, right? You've got people that are operating ships and understanding how to craft those ships, and knowing everything about the water and navigating waterways and things like that. And to your point, craftsmen who are, who do you think for these plantations or these houses or whatever, who's crafting the ironwork and the work around the house? It's the Blacks, it's the slaves. But we don't think about that. Yeah, it's artisan work. You're absolutely right. Right.
I am floored. Oh my gosh. Definitely.
What else can I share for? What else can I clarify for you or share with you?
This is right now I'm really like what's the word? I'm overwired. I'm getting ready to blow up views.
Oh, I know. It can be overwhelming.
I gotta digest this, And my thing is I just want to follow the trail, just thinking about giving tribute to the ancestors, because that's what they were. And I am getting closer and closer to what I really want to say. but it has to. In other words, you have planted so many seeds into my being.
Good.
I'm in a somewhat of a quandary. Where do I start? I know where I'm starting. It's just it's a multiplicit. This is a multifaceted thing that just making connecting the dots.
Yeah, and it's
Starting
never
in one
ending.
place.
And what I've provided for you was just really the genealogy part. Who begot
Yes,
who? Who begot who?
definitely.
But
Yes,
each one of these people has a story and has
yes,
a life,
indeed. Whoa.
and
And-
they had children that they mothered and fathered and sacrificed for, or or lost children and
mhm.
parents and things like that. I just came upon a new website called, it's very interesting, I think it's called Lost Seek I think it's called Seeking the Lost.
Seeking the
And
lost. Oh,
I
wow.
think it's called Seeking the Lost, and I'll have to get it to you. But the bottom line is, right after slavery, when I'm talking about that time, the Reconstruction time
Mhm, mhm.
after slavery and people are let go, it's chaotic in the
It's
United States.
terrible. Oh
It's
my goodness.
chaotic.
It's
And people are being set free to knowing,
mm,
to nowhere and to nothing.
mm,
Okay. And as they are walking to nowhere and nothing, they are inquiring along the way when they're seeing other people along the road,
mhm.
asking questions. Have you seen my mother? Have you seen my children? They
Oh
were
my Lord.
they
That's
were sold
pitiful.
away from me 10
Ugh.
years, 21, 30 years ago, and I've never seen them. I heard they were here. And this particular website that I'm talking about, actually, there were advocates and abolitionists and Christian newspapers, and probably just people, just good people, that were putting ads in the paper on behalf of these Blacks who were looking for their
Mhm,
family. So in the late 1860s, all the way through the 1900s,
mhm,
you have ads where
mm.
people are seeking their family. I'm putting a presentation together about it right now.
That's amazing.
So this is actually in right out of Charleston, the one I just pulled up.
Mhm.
Actually, it's called Last Seen. It's called
Let's
Last
see.
Seen: Finding Family After Slavery. And this is South Carolina, out of Charleston. It's called the South Carolina Leader. And this
Mhm,
was an ad in the paper for December 8th, 1866. Information wanted from the family of Moses A. Sawyer, in 1847, sold to Columbia and
mm,
afterwards sold south. Any information of his whereabouts would be gratefully received. His father, William Ford of Charleston, South Carolina, in the care of Reverend P. And then it's something undecipherable. So this
mhm,
father, his son was sold in 1847.
mhm,
And in 1866, after slavery, he's putting an ad in the newspaper looking for
mhm,
him.
mhm.
And so, and I
Wow.
have several like that. I have several like that where these fathers are looking for their children. So that debunks the notion, the myth, that Black fathers didn't care about their families.
Mhm,
Their families were stolen from them. They were used for, these Black men were used for breeding. We talk about the women often used for breeding,
mhm,
but the Black men often were used for breeding, and they were made to breed with hundreds of women. So, and sired hundreds and hundreds of children
mhm, mhm,
against their will, right? And then they were when they were allowed to be in the families, if their children were sold for them. I have several newspaper articles where these
mhm.
men are looking for their children.
Wow.
So don't tell me the story, oh, Black men just don't care about their children. That's not true. I have
This is
proof
the
right here.
mhm. This is the deepest Black history I ever been exposed. And I thought I was in college. I took Black history courses, and they weren't teaching us. They taught about the things, but hey,
Hmm.
this is deep now. This is what.
Yeah. So I am doing, if you are free, on April 6th, 6:30
Hmm.
Central Time, 7:30 your time, and I can send you information. I am
Please
doing a
do.
presentation called 500 Years in 50 Minutes. So
Wow.
what
Hmm.
it is with other group of people, when I worked at American, we put together 25 different 30-minute to 1 hour presentations about Black history.
Beautiful.
And they started before slavery. It started with the kingdoms of Africa. Okay.
There you go. Hmm.
I said, no, that's not where the narrative starts. It doesn't start with slavery. It starts before that. So I was asked to take all those 25 and put it together in an hour-long presentation. So I did that. And so it went over very well. I just did it at Harvard, went over incredibly well. And I'm going to do it for a nonprofit that I work for called the Specs Movement. It's free. It's going to be virtual. Anyone who wants to join, I am just going to go through very quickly and give people some references so that they can look the information up for themselves. But it will take you from the great kings of Africa to Black Lives Matters.
That's what's up. That's Black. That's me. That's like the black hole of history. That's us. That's, you know, it's
That's
like,
it.
hey.
That's it. So, and what I'm based it on, I'm like, you know what, you didn't learn everything in history. This is how I generally start. I'm like, you know what? You probably heard that Blacks were slaves. Abraham Lincoln set them free. And now you don't understand what the problem is. What are you complaining about? What are you riding in the streets about? But there's so much in between. There's 500 years in between that you know nothing about, that they did not teach you in history. And that's what I do in this 1 hour session.
Definitely, you're on to something. That's what's going on. It's a rebirth, I think. With all this technology, we should be able to pinpoint everything now. Speaking, but anyway, I hope you video this and send me this, whatever it is, and hey, I'm in your corner, Anna. You know, whatever you seek, you know, whatever.
Well, thank you.
Count
Thank
me
you.
in.
Yeah, I'm in your corner as well. I love what you're doing. Now, this recording, I don't know if it's just an audio recording or video. I really don't know, but I hit record. I'm going to hit stop. It's going to go on my computer, and then I'm going to send it to you, and we'll see what we get.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And it's a good time to end. It's 7:29, 7:30, right on time. This is how we do it. Thank you so much, Anna.
Sir. All right, good talking to you.
Great. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.